Hi everybody, Cheaply Chic Lynette here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm taking a little break from the New Beginnings collection and I'm going to create some collage tags. Again, as in previous videos, I am playing around with my big old folder of scraps of different things that I've used in the past, but I decided to use for the base of my tags this vintage music that I had. Now this was just photocopied music that someone printed off back in the day, and they used Scotch tape to tape their sheets together at the piano, I'm sure, and I love it. I love that old tape, and yeah, it just gets me really excited. So I'm going to use that on the base of my tag. I also had these pre-cut manila folders in my little scrap bin, so I decided to use those. I'm going to be creating with those as a base today. So I like this little pre-cut out of the front of a file folder. I like that little dip in the edge, and that is going to be a pocket that I'm going to create for my journal. I'm currently working in this New Beginnings journal, so that's what I'm creating these tags for. I'm just not using the collection today. So here, look at that old brown tape. I just love it. I want that to be in the center of the pocket that I'm creating for my journal. So I'm going to use my tear ruler. I'll link it in the description box down below for anyone who might be interested. And I'm just going to tear the paper to fit on top of this pocket that I'm making. I want that brown Scotch tape front and center in the front of my pocket, so I will just be gluing my manila tag down to that. Now the funny thing is, when I started this project, I had a totally different idea in mind. I was watching a journal flip through from it was someone I haven't watched in a long time. I don't think she's posted videos in years. And one of her videos popped up in my feed, and just a little tag that she had in the journal she made that was covered in scraps was so inspiring to me. Right after the video, I decided I want to make some of those tags. And I didn't. It's nothing like that tag. But I'm super thankful for the inspiration. She got me at my craft desk and doing some crafting, so I will still be making a tag like she had someday, but I am super happy to have sat here and made these tags. I love how they turn out. So something else about collaging, a lot of times there are different ways to collage. Obviously, some people like to create a master board and then cut up their tags later, which I do that sometimes. I have videos here on my channel where I've done that. But sometimes I like creating the tags first, having them as a base, and then collaging just the tag. I feel like I'm stumbling all over myself here, but sometimes I feel like knowing what the finished product is going to look like brings me more satisfaction than cutting up a collage masterboard and having that be the finished project. I don't know. It's just the way that my brain works. They're both fun. Collaging is one of my favorite things to do, which is why this video was so fun for me today. So I am just going to create 3 more tags along with that pocket for my journal. And again, I'm adding that base of music paper. All right, so now that I created my base for my tags and I ran them through the sewing machine to give them just a little bit more of an added texture, added my tea stain paper to the back, I'm ready to start collaging. So here is my big old folder of scraps that I typically grab when I'm collaging things or creating tags, and I'm just going through them and picking out different papers. I have a hard time explaining what collaging means to me, so I hope that I make a little bit of sense here. But since I started with the music paper in the background, and since it's already faded, it's not perfectly white anymore, I know that I don't want stark white. I want to add my next layer of book page with that same similar tone. So I'm using this ivory Edith Holden book page. And something else that I'm looking for is I'm not wanting to put more music on top of the music. I like the fact that this print is a certain type of font. Even the font on that book page is printed in a brown color, so I love that. That's what I started with. And now I'm grabbing this printable. This was a digital printable I purchased from an Etsy shop, and what I like about this one is it has numbers. So I grabbed that one, I set it aside for a little bit, and then I grabbed this other printable scrap that I had, and I like the floral image, again with those muted tones, and I decided to use that as my focal point on the tag, at least to start for the focal point. So everything that I think I'm looking for is usually trying to stay in the same color family for the tag for the most part, if that makes any sense, if I'm saying that right. So this little strip with the numbers, again, I like that ivory color. I love the numbers and the fact that it is yet another different font and another different visual texture. So I'm going to glue that down behind the floral piece. And then I really think there's a lot of things going on subconsciously. It's funny, I was just listening to a podcast yesterday where he was talking about the number of thoughts that our brain has in a moment. And it was like some crazy amount of information coming at our brain, yet we can only think about 10 things at once. Right? So we really only know a few things going on, but our brain is constantly taking in information. So for some reason that's popping up to me now, and I'm looking at this tag and I'm thinking a lot of things I did was I stayed vertical. I kept my strips long and skinny. Anyway, just a random thought. So I decided to move on to another tag, I guess, and I'm going to go back to that one a little bit later. And again, I'm grabbing the muted color, that ivory printable there, and I like that script text. And now I'm covering up most of the music, it seems, but I really like that little phrase at the bottom that says, calm but not slow. It's funny, as somebody I deal with a lot of music and things in worship over the years and all the different things I've done musically, and that just makes me smile because yes, you can't slow things down. There is a tempo. You have to stick with the tempo. Anyway, so I liked that and I decided to leave that on the tag. So I picked out another vintage book page. Again, love the different fonts and scripts. And now I'm going to use this hummingbird stamp. And I'm using archival ink here because it's waterproof and I just feel like it has a little bit more staying power. And I'm using that faded green color, and I'm going to be using that as my focal point on this tag. I love stamping on the book page. I forget about that so often, and it just adds a really nice touch. So again, it's another layer to our collage tag. And again, just moving on to the next tag, I'm going to be repeating myself here a couple more times. But again, another book page from an Edith Holden book with a different type of font in it. And so I wanted to play around with that. And then I just love those vintage book pages. They just always have some interesting block text a lot of times, or some script. I just love using different fonts. So just a random thought about what I mentioned earlier about how much information the brain is taking in. I realized I didn't finish my thought with that. And it's just some of the things that you do subconsciously that you don't even realize you're doing. So explaining collage to someone is difficult for me because I'm not following a set of rules necessarily. I'm just following probably what my brain thinks looks good. So in terms of doing these tags, it seems to be rectangular shapes, right? I'm not ripping any circles out, not that you couldn't, but I'm not here, apparently, and I'm using rectangular shapes and square shapes basically throughout this whole collage session. So just something I picked up on as I'm watching this video and doing a voiceover that I didn't realize in the beginning. So I just thought I would mention that. Similar shapes and following the pattern of the tag itself. Okay, moving away from that. That's hurting my brain trying to figure all that out. So here I am going to use these little butterflies. This was out of a vintage dictionary that I have, and it just had this page of butterflies, and I've used them before and I love them. So I'm going to make that the focal point on this tag, and then I'm going to move on to the next one. Again, more fonts, more ivory toned paper. I love that ledger paper. I love the holes in it to fit into the book that, the ledger paper came in. To me, that's just more added character and just another layer of creativity on a collage tag. And now I'm just going to be finishing up my tags with these old Maggie Holmes stickers that I had in my stash. I've used them in a couple other videos now, and I just love that gold touch. So I'm looking for phrases that speak to me in terms of new beginnings or the new year or things I might want to focus on. And I'm just adding them as a finishing touch to my tag. So I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who took the time to watch this video today, listen to me ramble, and hopefully at least make a little bit of sense. I'm walking away from this video hoping I made a little bit of sense. So thank you so much. If you're interested in my recent New Beginnings collection that I released on my website, that link will be in the description box down below, as well as Instagram and Facebook and all of that jazz. Those links will be down below as well. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, I took it over to the sewing machine and just added a little touch of a fancy stitch on there. I just love that. I love that little added touch. So again, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in the next video.